Now, I think probably the biggest question that folks are having out there right now is these vaccines came out fast, right? These are new vaccines on the scene. So I'm going to go back to you, Professor Delgado. How do we know they're safe if they came out this fast? How do we have confidence that these things are safe for us?
Yeah, so safety is a big concern. I think a lot of people see this, COVID hit in early 2020, and by the end of 2020, we ended up having a vaccine, right? And so I understand the concerns of safety. I do want to mention no corners were cut in this process. It was sped up, but not in a way that impacted safety. So when you have a vaccine that's getting made, it could take, 5-10 years, depending on what's available and what's not available at that time. But interesting with the COVID-19 vaccines, there was a couple of reasons how it was able to be speed up so fast. And so these are just kind of some examples. One is the vaccine technology for mRNA vaccines been developed for 2 decades. Like it's been in development for 2 decades, and then we finally got to use it. So it was kind of ready to go as soon as we needed it. And we also saw this was an all hands on deck moment. Scientists all over the country were asked, stop doing your research. We all need to shift and do COVID-19 research and figure out a vaccine. So when you have that many amazing brains all working towards the same solution, things happen faster. And so this all hands on deck moment was through everything from the paperwork for the vaccines put on the top of the list, when it could take a year of waiting just for them to review your paperwork. Funding was not a problem, right? We had money that was ready to be available immediately to fund this. So you don't have to wait a year, 2-3 years for funding. Volunteers are ready to go for the same thing. It could take a year sometimes to get enough volunteers, but volunteers are ready to get in. And once the safety checks were the same, it just took, because volunteers are ready to go, we were able to do volunteer recruitment quickly. The safety checks were exactly the same, and if anything, more vigorous, because more participants were included in these clinical trials than a typical vaccine trial would. And then we also were able to, scientists were able to do multiple clinical trials side by side simultaneously instead of separating them out. And so by doing so, increase the speed. Of course, COVID-19 rates were high, so it didn't take long to see that the vaccines were working compared to people who were not vaccinated getting and contracting the disease. And so because of all those kind of factors, we were able to see that this vaccine works and it was safe. All the data and checklist, as it moves from one program officer or I guess agency to another, got to the top of the list, and they weren't going to wait. As soon as it got on their list, they're going to check all the safety and data and then move on. And everything else got pushed to the side, including other important things, but COVID was number one priority at this point. And that's why everything moved so fast. And again, we had way more data than we would have normally had in other clinical trials.